Hello everyone, my name is Andy Carluccio and I'm a student researcher at the University of Virginia. In this video I'm going to explain how I use the Arduino Yun Revision 2 for use in live entertainment technology. Specifically I'm going to talk about how to set up the Yun with network, how to communicate over the bridge, and how to configure the Yun for development in a Python-based environment. To do this you're going to need access to a router, a laptop with a USB port and a micro USB cable to program, and of course an Ethernet cable. So without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, so now I'm going to jump into a screen capture for the rest of the tutorial. We're going to be following the reflashing guide on the Yun to get the OpenWRT image updated to one that supports the installation of Python modules. Just as a note, this will, according to the Arduino site, void your warranty on the Yun. There are other methods of doing this. This is the one that I understand best, and it's the way I've been doing it. So, proceed at your own risk here, and do understand that the warning here. Now, also, there are some specific things based on what operating system you're coming into, because we're going to use a TFTP server. So, for example, I'm on a Windows environment, so I've already followed these steps. But go ahead and go to this webpage, which I'll link in the description, and it will show other instructions that you'll need to follow to get your TFTP server up and running. That's how we're going to send the images over to the Yun. But some basic things to understand first. The Yun, when it first powers up and doesn't have a Wi-Fi network configured, is going to emit its own local Wi-Fi network signal. So if I look at my different Wi-Fi networks, you'll see that I have the Arduino Yun showing up amongst the other available Wi-Fi networks, and I'll go ahead and connect to it. And I'll show you a little bit more about what this interface looks like. I also want to mention that I'm going to use this guide for the Arduino Yun that I wrote. It's a 6-page document that explains everything that I'm going to do in this video, and we're going to kind of follow this along. This document will be linked in the description over on the GitHub. This is part of the network stage robotics project that I'm working on under Chris Rubitsky and Steve Warner at the University of Virginia. So I'm going to kind of follow this along. Anyway, so I've connected to the Yun's network, and I'm going to access the Yun by one of two methods. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to type arduino.local. I am lucky. And I can get to this web interface. The other way to do this is to type in its IP address, 192.168.240.1. This is when the Yun boots up and emits its own local Wi-Fi. This is the address that it will give itself, and you can access the Yun's page like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Default password for the Arduino Yun is Arduino, A-R-D-U-I-N-O. Log in. And now you can see the address that it gave itself, and I've gone ahead and give it a wired internet connection as well to the router in the system, but that's not too important right now. I'm going to go over to configure, and I'm going to name it something like Yun Brain, and I'm going to give it a password. And I am in the New York time zone of America, so I'm going to scroll down and find that. And I want it to connect to the robot Wi-Fi network, and that has a password as well. And I don't really have to mess with REST API. I can just leave it open. And I'll configure and restart. Okay, so it's going to jump over to that, and it's asking me to go over to the robot network. So I'll pop over there. And eventually this bar will reach the end, and it will loop me over to a page for the web interface now hosted over the new network. Now, a couple of things to note about this. If you boot up the Yun and it doesn't see the network that you've paired it with, it will start emitting its own Wi-Fi signal again, and it will never repair to the network until you go back into the web interface and remind it which network it was connected to. This is a big pet peeve of mine, as this sometimes happens where the network will go down while the robot is in operation, and then I'll have to log back into the robot and reconfigure the web interface. But just something to be aware of. Power off your Yun before you power off your router. Otherwise, it will become what I call stranded. Okay, so once the Yun's restarted, you can access through clicking here. And now I'm at yunbrain.local. Great. And I'll put in my password and log back in. Great, and now I can see that my IP address is 192.168.1.4, or my wired Ethernet access is 192.168.1.2, and we saw that before because we've been wired this entire time. Anyway, now we're going to get over into how to flash the YUN with the new bootloader, operating system, and images, that 3 files required to essentially get this YUN with an operating system that'll be able to install different Python packages. Because out of the box, while Arduino claims it works, I've never had a YUN that worked out of the box with this. So these are the changes that I feel like we have to make. So first, it's going to be running that TFTP server. And again, you're kind of on your own to set that up, but the tutorial will be linked. And this is hosting those 3 files. And I can see my IP address here is 192.168.1.3, which will be important to remember. Popping back over to my guide. I also use WinSCP. That's a way for me to access the file hierarchy of the YUN, and PuTTY to access a remote terminal over SSH. Great. So my TFTP server is active. I'm going to go over to the Arduino application, load the YUN serial terminal sketch onto the Arduino side. Again, the YUN contains both a Linux operating system that controls the Wi-Fi module, Ethernet module, and a full-sized USB port. And then a Arduino processor, which is hosting the micro USB port for serial communication, as well as the pinout of the device. So go ahead and upload the YUN serial terminal sketch. And once it's uploaded, I will go over to Tools, and I will select the serial monitor. And with the serial monitor open, I'm going to press a button on the PCB of the YUN. It says YUN reset. I'm going to press that. And now within 4 seconds, I have to type ARD, enter. Great. So if you did that quickly enough, you are now in the bootloader interface. We can start to send over our reflashing commands. So I'm going to open up my guide and open up my serial terminal. And for my guide, I'm going to send the following instructions over the serial monitor. So I'm going to set my IP address, which is not .4, which is .3. Enter. I'm going to set the YUN's IP address, which I'm just going to set it to 0.7, because this is me setting it. Doesn't matter what it already was set to. Okay, now to start using TFTP. Again, you got to do this exactly in this order, or else you can brick the YUN very easily. Okay, erase what's on there. Copy to flash. Erase again. Great. Now send over the kernel for OpenWRT. And these are varying file sizes, so this can take a different amount of time. Now erase what's there. Great. And now copy to flash. Okay. And now the operating system, TFTP. Great. And now erase. And these files I'll make available in the description. Great. And now copy from flash, to flash. Great. And reboot. Great. Off we go. So now the YUN is going to emit its own Wi-Fi signal again, and we'll have to remind it to connect back to the robot network. And back in a web browser, I will go back to the YUN and... Okay, it's restarted. Great. Okay, my IP address 192.168.1.4, and I physically disconnected my wired Ethernet port because we're not going to need it any longer. Fantastic. I had to step away momentarily to get access to the World Wide Web on my router, but now that that's configured, I will reconnect to Yun. Great. And now if I open up my PuTTY terminal, I'm logged in. So this is great. So now I can start to run some of the commands that are required to install, let's say, the requests library. Oop, that is a misspelling. Great. Great. Now, this last one, we have to first have sent our tarball of Python, or excuse me, of pip over to the file hierarchy. So I'm going to go ahead and create a place to put that. So I'm going to go in the user folder, lib, and I will go ahead and just make a new folder. I'm going to call it a directory. Let's just say AndyCode. And let's see, I'm going to need to install the tarball. So it's on my computer, so I'll have to just drop it over. So now this file is fairly large for the amount of flash storage that you have. So it's important to delete it before trying to install any libraries following this. Let me cd over to this directory. There it is. Great. So now I can run this last command on the list. Easy install pip -6.8 or excuse me, .0.8.tar.gz. This will take a while, but the good news is once we've gotten pip installed on here, we'll be able to install some of our favorite development libraries, like if you wanted to access OSC, or maybe you want to, like I said, the requests library, which is what this tutorial was built for. Lots of different options. But this will process that tar and go ahead and create a package for us of pip. Okay, and now pip is installed. So if I wanted to install the requests library, I would type pip install requests, and pip would install it. Great, and now pip is installed, so we could use pip in any of the programs that we wanted to create in Python. This concludes this leg of the tutorial. If you're interested in seeing how to use both Arduino scripts and Python scripts together to send communication data over the bridge, let me know and I can go ahead and create a tutorial on that. But for now, hope you enjoyed this one. Signing off.